Alright guys, I am back with another horror room movie review, and this is The Hills Have Eyes 3, aka Mind Ripper, aka The Outpost, aka The Hills Still Have Eyes. A movie of many names from 1995, came out on the HBO channel, didn't come out in theaters or anything like that. Had a budget of $8 million. That's really hard to believe, but whatever. And it says it was produced by Wes Craven. I'm not sure what his actual involvement was with this movie. I think his son had a lot to do with this one. Maybe. I don't even know if he had a lot to do with it. But it was just... Here's the thing about this movie. And tonight I've actually had a couple beers, or 12. So I'm going to do my best to read all of these notes. And my God, do I have a lot of notes on this piece of shit movie. The thing about this movie is the Halloween series. You have, I think, the third movie. And it's where the masks are actually killing people. It has nothing to do with Michael Myers. And so it's just kind of a random movie thrown out there. That's what this movie is for the Hills Have Eyes series. You have the first movie in the series, which is good. The poster's based on that one. And then you have the sequel, which apparently was so bad Wes Craven disowned it. And which I personally didn't think it was that bad. And then you have the remake and its sequel. And right in the middle, you have this turd of a movie that really has nothing to do with the Hills Have Eyes series. And even if you didn't consider it part of the Hills Have Eyes, if it was just a standalone movie, it still falls short. It's just a terrible story. And it's so predictable. It's like something a kid in college would make if he was trying to put together a horror movie for a school project or something. And he said, okay, let me just do something really basic. This guy, he injects a dead body with a virus, and it turns into a monster. And it starts rampaging around and killing people, and maybe it has a spike thing come out of its mouth. And the heroes stop it, but then it comes back. And they stop it again, and it comes back. That's exactly what this movie is. It's just so predictable and basic. And maybe it was Wes Craven's son. I don't know the history behind it. Maybe it was one of his first movies or something. But it was just such a pain in the ass to watch. And if you want to watch this movie, for some insane reason, it is on YouTube. I watched it on this channel. How do you say this guy's name? Giovanni Ribisi, I guess is how you say it. He's an actor in this movie. You probably know him from Friends. He plays Phoebe's brother. Well, he's in this movie as Stockton's son Scott. And there's a channel on YouTube, I think it's Giovanni Ribisi Fans, and they have a bunch of his movies, but this is one of them. And you can watch the entire movie if you want to. And I think it's almost 2 hours long. Which, I don't know what they were thinking with this. So, yeah, you can definitely check this movie out if you want to, but I personally thought it was just kind of a waste of time, and the quality was terrible. So, if I wasn't doing a review of every movie in the Hills Have Eyes series, I definitely would pass on this one. But anyways, on to the actual movie. It starts off and we see Stockton, played by Lance Hendrickson. And his team finds a body in the desert. And at this point we have no idea what's going on. I wasn't sure how much this was going to, I guess, be involved with the actual storyline, the people in the desert, and the cannibalism and all of that. I wasn't really sure. Turns out nothing, but they find this body in the desert, and he injects it with some virus he's created. He takes it back to this base. They're doing genetic experiments, and they're trying to create super soldiers or some crap like that. And then we see 6 months later, there's this woman, Joanne, and she gets in the shower, and one of her co-workers, Rob, is spying on her. Of course, we get some nudity here. I cannot believe this woman got naked for this movie. I guess she thought it would be a launching point or something, but... So the people at the base are kind of getting frustrated. They haven't seen a lot of progress with this body. They've injected it with the virus, and it just... nothing's really happened. So they're kind of getting frustrated, and... they're running out of food, they're running out of supplies, the lights are flickering, which doesn't really make sense. If they're trying to work for the government to create a super soldier, they should have a lot of funding, but... so they're having some problems here, and they're getting frustrated, and the leader, Alex, says, you know what, you guys can leave anytime you want, but you're not going to get as much money. I'm still going to pay you the bonuses, whatever you want, and they decide to stick around. And we found out Stockton, Lance Hendrickson, apparently left the group. He didn't like what they were doing with his project, his virus, so he already left. He quit. And we see Stockton back home. He's getting ready to take his daughter and son, Scott, camping. Back at the base, the body wakes up. And Alex, the leader of the group, decides to call Stockton. He wants to get him back at the base, and he tells him that the body, it's not doing good. He's waking up, but he's flatlining at the same time. You brought him back to life. You need to come back here and save him. We see Joanne, who finds out Alex has been giving Thor, which is what they call the body, more of the virus. Thor goes into cardiac arrest, and they try to revive him, but he dies. Again. So he flatlines, and Alex gets pissed. He starts acting like a huge dick. And then the body starts to come back to life. The lights go out, and when they come back on, Thor is gone. So they look around. They're trying to find him. He jumps out, and he kills this guy, Frank, with what I think was a full Nelson. That's the other thing about this movie. I did watch it on YouTube, and the quality was pretty bad, and it was really dark for a lot of the scenes. But to me, it looked like he killed him with a full Nelson. He gets the guy in the hold, and his face just starts bleeding. Actually, after watching the movie, I guess I can assume he stabbed him with this little spike thing that comes out of his mouth through the back of his head. But I'm just trying to make sense of something that does not require it. But anyways, so the others try to escape, but Thor grabs Larry and drags him back into the room. And it was so classic. Larry's trying to crawl. There's Joanne and Alex watching this happen, and Larry's trying to crawl at them, and he's just being dragged back into the lab by some unknown figure. We can't see it at all. And he's just holding on to the door frame, and then he just goes into the room. And Joanne and Alex are watching this entire thing happen, and they do nothing. They're just sitting in front of the damn door. And Alex says, there's nothing you could have done, while the monster is probably 3 feet away. So we see Stockton. He decides to go back to the base, and he flies with his son, Scott, his daughter Wendy, and her boyfriend Mark in his own plane. And back at the base, this guy Rob wants to leave, but Alex wants to stay, and he doesn't want to involve any outside help. So he wants Rob and Joanne's help to capture Thor. And they create these spears with syringes, tranquilizers on the end of them. Looked ridiculous. And Rob tries to attack Alex, and Alex fights him off. Alex actually has a shotgun, by the way, and he fights him off, and Rob says, "You better keep that gun on me, pal." Well, if they don't trust him, and they don't trust Alex at all. They don't even think he's going to pay them. Why are they still here? If they think this guy is such a low-life piece of crap, why are they still here? He told them they could have left at any time, and yet here they are still trying to go after Thor, do whatever this guy says, try to capture this guy. And it just didn't make any sense why he would turn on him now. I guess they were just trying to build some type of suspense for this movie. There was also some romantic crap between Joanne and Rob that was really unnecessary, that was just also thrown in. It's like this movie tried to add a little bit of everything. Where was I here? So Joanne, Alex, and Rob head back into the lab. They find Larry's body. His head's been cracked open. Alex tells them to look in the duct, and Joanne goes up and she sees some rats chewing on an eyeball. Spooky. I mean, this was so cheesy. Stockton leaves the kids at the plane. He goes to head into the base. We see Thor, who throws up something. I don't know what it was, but Thor looked like Tarzan. At least in the beginning of the movie. Actually, he also kind of looked like the, not Lestat, but Louis from Interview with a Vampire. He kind of looked like him too. And that's how he looked for most of the movie until the virus really starts to take over his body and he loses his hair and everything. But for most of the movie, he's running around like Tarzan. And they hear Thor coming. And Joanne stabs Alex with a tranquilizer. They hear him coming through the air duct, so she stabs him with the tranquilizer so that he's going to be stuck behind with them. Because the only way to get out of the base is with a hand code. And Alex is the only one who has it. Why they need security and they can't give it to any of the coworkers is beyond me. But Alex is the only one with the code to escape the base, which is really unsafe in case of a fire or anything. But he's the only one who can escape, so because they can't use the code, they decide to use the tranquilizer on him so he won't want to stay behind with Thor and he'll leave with them. But of course he doesn't care, and he wants to stay whether he's going to live or die, and Thor just reaches down from the air duct and pulls him out. Stockton's annoying kids won't stay by the plane, so he goes back and gets them. He brings them into the base with him. Rob and Joanne try to find a way out. They get blocked by some radioactive barrels, and Joanne says, "What do we do now?" And Rob says, "Call Oprah. Hell, I don't know." Exact words. This guy's making jokes right now. Stockton, Wendy, Mark, and Scott are arguing about which one is Siegfried and which one is Roy. This is what it cuts to. Oh my god. So Thor has Alex tied up. He pulled him up from the air duct, so he's got him tied up now, and he's asking him some questions, and he says, "You're the one who made me hurt." Horrible acting, by the way. And he throws up again. Some weird spike thing comes out of his mouth, and he says it needs to be fed, and he needs brains or something. There's a chemical in the brain that Thor actually needs to survive. Something like that. And he tells Alex to lend me your mind, stabs him through the eye with the spike thing, kills him. That's how Thor kills people. He stabs him with the spike. So Rob leaves Joanne to go to the network room. Thor attacks him, rips off his toenail, and Rob is able to escape. He gets up to the network room and he's trying to work on the computers and stuff, and Thor shows back up. And Rob tries to shoot at him, but he's got some piece of concrete blocking his path. So he can't hit him, and then Thor just attacks Rob, beats the crap out of him, and stabs the spike through his nose. Rob wasn't really a bad character. He looked really familiar too. I can't remember who plays him, but Wendy sees the brains her dad was working on, and she gets really creeped out. She's pissed off at him, and she gets upset and leaves. Mark goes after her, and Stockton decides to go look for the others, so he tells Scott to stay put. And Mark and Wendy run into Joanne. And while they're talking to her, Thor hears Scott's Walkman, so he goes after him, and Scott is in the middle of microwaving something. And Thor's about to attack him from behind. The microwave goes off, and this kind of stuns him temporarily. And he snaps out of it. He goes to kill Scott, and then Stockton shows up and stabs Thor in the back, but the knife just gets pushed out of his skin. So Thor turns around. He's about to attack Stockton, and the others show back up. And Thor grabs Stockton and drags him off. And Thor is talking to Stockton. He recognizes him as the guy who saved his life and brought him back to life with the virus and everything. And he asks Stockton if he's God. And he says, "You fed me soup." Stockton says, "Chicken noodle." And then Thor says, "You read to me. The Hardy Boys. I liked them." This was just so bad. And he asks Stockton when he will die, and Stockton says, "Well, you're going to live forever." So I guess Stockton's virus, his superhuman serum, Captain America formula, worked. He created a super soldier in Thor. Well, I guess technically he created the virus, but Alex is the one who injected him enough times to create an immortal super soldier with a spike thing in its mouth. But we find out that Thor was actually a suicide victim. He wanted to kill himself. When they found his body on the rocks, it wasn't an accidental death. He was trying to kill himself, so he's pissed he's going to live forever. He grabs Stockton, he spits the spike thing out of his mouth, and it cuts away. So it's implied that he actually kills Stockton here. Joanne tests the blood from the knife that Stockton stabbed Thor with and realizes he needs brains. So they set a trail of brains to lure him into a room where they can freeze him. So they expect him just to walk by and eat each brain on his way to this freezer. And Thor jumps down. He shoves Joanne's head onto a spike, strangles Mark and Scott. He picks up Wendy, and a spike comes out of her mouth. And then he wakes up, and we see it was all a nightmare Thor was having. I have to tell you, at this point in the movie, I thought, you know what, if this is how it ends, and I knew this was not how it ended. But I thought maybe there was a chance, maybe they ran out of money or something, and this was it. They just rushed the ending, and that's the movie. I was just hoping it was over. But there's more. So he starts chasing. He starts chasing after them, and Scott uses a wire to trip him, which causes Thor to crack his head open on the side of the wall, which was pretty funny. And the rest of them go lock themselves into a room. Thor starts going after the brains. He goes into the freezer, and they're watching this on monitors. So when they see him go into the freezer, Mark and Joanne leave to go lock him into the freezer. And when they get there, Scott and Wendy are watching, and they see Thor come up behind them. So it was a swerve. He's not in the freezer. He grabs Mark, breaks his neck. Joanne shoots him. He gets knocked back into the freezer room, and she traps him in there. Anything that hits this guy, just instantly, the skin regenerates. Nothing can hurt him. So they're going to try and freeze him in this room. Joanne tells them that in order to escape the base, they need their father's hand. So they have to go back to Stockton's body and get his hand so they can enter the hand code. And they show up, and of course Stockton is still alive. He tells Joanne that she should have told him about what was really going on here, and she says that or he says when he last left Thor, he was a 90-pound weakling. And Joanne says that they didn't know Alex was pumping him full of the virus. They didn't know he was drugging him. They didn't know a 90-pound guy turned into this muscular dude. Nobody noticed this happening. I don't know how tall Thor was, but I would say he was probably 175, 180 when he was running around attacking people. And nobody noticed this change from 90 to 180. And he also rips his ears off and his hair off, which causes him to just look kind of like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. So Thor breaks out of the room. He grabs Wendy. He runs off. And Joanne wants to go after her, but Stockton says, "We need light." So Joanne wants to go save Wendy, Stockton's daughter, and he stops her and says, "Wait a minute. We need light." Which was ridiculous. And then Scott says, "No, we need sound." He remembers the microwave, how it stunned him. So they go to the intercom and they play some type of sound and they tell Wendy where to run. So while Thor's distracted, she takes off and he chases after her. And when he catches up to her, Scott jumps out with a broken light bulb and stabs it onto his spike thing, stunning him. And they escape the base. They get inside a van and they drive off. And they're driving for a while. They're talking and everything, and they're all relaxed. And then all of a sudden, Thor is on the roof of this van. He must be insanely fast. So he's on the roof. Stockton shoots him off with a shotgun. No big deal. Then all of a sudden, he's on the back of the van. And he breaks through the back window, and Scott cuts his spike thing off with a piece of glass. And Wendy shoots him with the shotgun, but hits a gas tank. So it catches on fire. So they jump out of the van, and there's the plane. Right in front of them. How convenient. They get in the plane, and they're flying away. And Thor is on the plane now. So Joanne takes the shotgun and shoots him through the window with this no-kick shotgun. And he falls off, and they say, "Are you okay?" And she says, "I'll live unless he can fly." Which honestly at this point would not surprise me if he could. And the last thing we see is Thor's body. It's all broken up on the rocks, just like they found him in the beginning of the movie. And his hand moves. And that was it. That was the end of The Hills Have Eyes 3, or whatever you want to call it. Just a really long, drawn-out movie. And the thing about it is it's rare. I think it's rare. I'm sure you could get it on DVD if you wanted to buy it, or you were a big Wes Craven fan and just wanted to own absolutely everything he was ever involved with. Maybe you would want to find this. But if you're just looking for a good movie to watch, a good horror movie, or you just want to watch all the Hills Have Eyes movies, you could still skip this one. It is not worth going to the trouble to try and find this movie. So that's pretty much it. That's my review of this. I didn't care for it at all. I would have to say this is one of the worst ones I've watched. I really cannot think of anything positive about this. Some of the acting was okay because it did have some well-known people in it, but it's just the story was such crap and so predictable, had nothing to do with the series it was named after, and just a colossal waste of time for the Hills Have Eyes fans. So I was very disappointed with this one. Cannot recommend it. I would put this one up there with Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. I would have to say I will probably never watch this movie again for the rest of my life. So that's my review of The Hills Have Eyes 3. I hope you guys liked the video. I will be back with the review of the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, which I'm actually looking forward to watching that one and its sequel. So leave your thoughts on this movie in the comments, and thanks for watching.